Hi, and welcome to What's Important to You with me, James Dean. On the show, I will be talking to people from all walks of life and asking them the question, what's important to you? Because I believe once we understand what's important, then we can build the life that we truly want to live. I hope you are inspired by the guests that I talk to and answer that question for yourself and build the life that you truly want. You can support the show by clicking on the subscribe button, sharing your favorite episode, or leaving your comments. Thanks for watching. Today's guest is a house music, dog-loving mum of two. She is on a mission to ignite more confidence, self-belief, and joy around the world so everyone gets to show up as their fully expressed selves with no filters needed. Today, we find out what's important to Nina De Sausmarez. Hello, Nina. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, James. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this chat and delighted that you joined me today. So we're going to go straight into it, Nina, with the first question, which is, what's important to you?
I love this question, and I answered it about 25 times, and now I'm going to go with what's important to me right now. So what's important to me is helping everyone I meet and myself show up and shine like the absolute stars that we all are. And why that is important to me is that I grew up thinking that my circumstances, my past, had to affect who I was and who I be and my whole life forever with no choice. So I didn't shine, and shining is our essence. Shining is who we are. I use that word. What I mean by that is helping people connect to their absolute greatness. And that isn't determined by success or money in the bank. It's just the fact that you are born whole, complete, and enough. And throughout, whether that is childhood situation, beliefs, values, how we were brought up, education, whatever's happened, health and well-being, that all just is like a light that just gets dimmed as we go throughout life till we get to the point where we just think, oh, is this it? And that was me, James. So now I am absolutely passionate after doing all of this work to just help people that I meet just feel joyful, excited, engaged, vibrant. And yeah, it's really, really important to me because I hate to break it to you, James, we're only going to get one shot. Sorry, listeners, that's a bit of a downer here, but what a waste of a life to get to the end of it and think, oh my God, I had all this stuff inside me to give and I wanted to express myself and I just had to, because I just felt like I wasn't enough.
Yeah. And it's interesting, actually, there's so much in that, and we're going to go through it all, but it's interesting that you say that. Yeah, but even you said there, it's you've only got one shot, and you almost say things a bit of a downer. It reminds me, though, I don't know if you follow Gary Vaynerchuk on any of the socials and stuff like that, and there's one famous clip of him where he was in his car on, I don't know I assume New York or wherever city he was, and there was a lady who recognized him, and through the window she said, "Give me 3 words of motivation." And she was filming him, and he just said, "You're going to die." And she kind of looked at him and was like, sort of, what? And she's like, and he goes, "That is motivation." And exactly as you just said there. And it's like when you actually allow yourself to listen to it and go, oh, right. Then he's like, well, then do something about it. So I do think as much as that, and the other phrase that I think that really sort of struck it with me that you said there, just in that thing of like getting to a point in your life. And I don't think this is necessarily age dependent. I think it may be more circumstance dependent when you may say to yourself, is this it? And that's also a sort of like, oh, yeah, because again, you're feeling that. So like I'd love to know sort of how did you, I suppose, because what you want to do and what's important to you now, how did you go from that point of like when you're thinking, oh, is this it, to where you are now? Because that's a transition.
Yeah, such a great question. you're going to die. That really landed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in my 40s, I think, when this really landed for me. You know, that kind of point, you know, regardless of whether you've had your own children or not, I don't think it is, you know, linked to that. But I'd had my children and I'm married, and I'm at that really kind of contented phase of life where I'm not really going for it in my career. I was more kind of in the motherhood zone still. My kids were just getting to that age where they're slightly becoming a bit more independent. And I was doing a lot of numbing, a lot, mainly alcohol, some drugs. And I'd done that for a long time, but I wasn't aware of why. And I'm sure people listening to this will really resonate with it. Lots of shame, lots of guilt attached to that. However, it was like medicine, because if I was to numb my feelings, again, this is all awareness now looking back, then I don't really have to deal with what I perceived was my lack of achievement, for want of a better word. You know, I was very much looking at everyone else thinking they've got it better than me. Therefore, okay, I might as well not bother. Life is just what life is. I might as well stay in the job that I'm not fulfilled in. My health is all right, but it really wasn't a major concern of mine. My kids are doing okay. Everything was just enough, James.
Yeah.
It was all just mediocre town. And obviously inside of me, there was an absolute yearning and desire for more. Now, I don't mean more as in stuff. I mean more as in fulfillment, connection, joy. But for some reason, probably based on experiences from my past and my childhood and my upbringing, I told myself, that's just not going to happen for me. And I should be grateful. I shoulded. And this is it. And I think just telling myself this is as good as it gets gave me a get out of jail free card, you know, Monopoly style. It's like, if I tell myself this is as good as it's going to get, then I don't have to try. And I won't be disappointed if nothing else happens. So why don't we just all accept that this is exactly what it's going to be happy with it, be grateful, and get on with it. That's great, logically.
Yeah.
But when you know, or you have this desire, because we're all infinite possibility, right? We can go there. We're infinitely creative beings. And it doesn't matter how you numb, what your drug of choice is. It doesn't matter what that is. You cannot suppress your innate, limitless, creative self. Because even if you aren't actually doing the thing, it will keep on coming up and calling you. It doesn't go away. It'll be like that niggle on your shoulder, or that itch that you can't scratch. And my God, I was so itchy, James. I was like, I had ants in my pants, but I just didn't know what to do with it. And so poured the wine, took the drugs, did this, did that, got out of my head and out of my body so that I didn't have to keep on going back to the story of it's never going to happen to you and you can't have it, because that was just so painful. And then I got to about 45 and my brother sent me a book. And the book, I haven't got it with me, but it's You Are a Badass by 𝙤𝙤 𝙤𝙖. And I'd not really accessed any self-development before. I was a teaching assistant in a school. I was very much kind of coaching and in that world, but not realizing it. But I had absolutely zero awareness, I think, of self. Everything was out there and nothing was in here. Emotions suppressed, blaming everything on everyone else, pretending I was fine when I wasn't. And I read this book and I was like, thanks for sending it, bro, but you know, I'm good. And then got a bit curious. You know, it probably sat there for about 2 months. And then it was like I was turning every page, James, and it was like light bulbs were just going off. Like, it's like she'd written this book about me. And I don't know about you or anyone listening, when you discover that kind of profound experience, whether it's a book, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a circle that you've sat in and talked to people, whether it's just a conversation over a coffee or a dog walk, and it hits you deep inside, oh my goodness, there is something that I can do about this. There is a whole new level of me that I haven't discovered, and I can change even now just by changing who I be and letting go of all of that junk in my trunk from the past. And that was the pivotal moment when I was like, okay, let's go.
Love it. It's really powerful, because I think there's this sort of, when you go, when you're talking there, I was thinking obviously about how some things are similar, in a sense of maybe similar to myself, or those moments, and it's that thing of, sometimes it could be, as you say, that one sort of clear moment as such of that book or that listening to something. Otherwise, it can be almost an incremental thing that sort of realizes you have to change. But I think the key things that I was picking up from yourself, though, is, or the when maybe that I've experienced with other people, and definitely myself, is that internal monologue. How long can you ignore it, in a sense of love, or fight amongst it? You know what I mean? Because it's that thing of, as you say, knowing you can do something to, or having something, but then as soon as you think of the something you could do, you're shut down by yourself, or whatever those beliefs were. And it's, again, only through retrospect you understand that it was a limiting belief, or all these sort of phrases, things we can use now. So when you got through, or you started to read that book, and it made those differences, because there's one thing, a sense of thinking it and maybe believing it and things like that. The next step is actually doing something about it and taking those actions. So what was, do you think, the first things that you did that made the change?
First of all, I just shut the book and thought, oh my God,
Yeah.
I can't ignore this anymore, and it's really annoying, and I just want to. I think when you first start understanding that who you are is not who you think you are,
Yep.
it's literally like going into a cold plunge. You know, you didn't want to be there, but you're here, and now you feel so invigorated that you don't want to get out. So that was kind of that. And I had been in my teaching career for 9 years. So the first place that I started was looking at the environments that I was in. Massive, right? Like a flower. It's got to be in the right environment if it wants to grow. It all starts off as a seed, the same as every other flower. But if it's not in the right soil, it doesn't have the right light, it's not got the right nurture, and I wasn't in the right environment.
Yeah.
I was this kind of like amazing flower that wanted to bloom, and I just was in the dark. So first place I looked was my work. I was unfulfilled, and I was holding myself very, 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 very small. But my internal monologue was, I'm middle-aged now. I don't have any qualifications. Again, it's probably going to be really hard for me to find another job. It's irresponsible of me to leave this job as a parent, as a wife. I basically just set myself up to not leave because it was so freaking scary. And after reading the book and really looking inside at what was really going on, I knew that I had a choice. And we don't often like to go there because we don't want to be responsible. We love to blame. It's not that we're aware of that we're doing it, but blaming is just so much easier, isn't it? Oh,
yep.
Economically, it's not going to be able to happen, and my age, and all of that. But once you've opened that car bonnet, you can't close it and pretend you didn't see the engine.
Yeah.
It was like, I've opened it. I know it's in there. So I decided I was going to hand in my resignation. And then I sat with the fear and the disgust and the shame and the excitement and the exhilaration and it was like, oh, yes. Oh, no. Yes. And that went on for a couple of weeks. I did that thing where I wrote it and I just kept getting it out every day and looking at it. Today's the day. And then I finally handed it in. And my the head teacher said to me, Nina, have you ever thought about being a life coach? And I kind of sat there. Wow, funny you should say that. I've just read this amazing book, but I've never actually thought about doing it. The pieces of the
Yeah.
puzzle hadn't really landed because I wasn't that far on my journey yet. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And I left. I didn't leave with a job to go to. So that was one massive, radical, irresponsible step. Like if you want to change who you be, you're going to have to do things that are so wildly, radically irresponsible that everybody else looks at you and says, you're mad.
Yeah.
Right? They're not supposed to make sense because we're all waiting for everything to make sense for us to do these things. But that's not the way that magic happens. You just have to trust it and move. Particularly magic happens when you can't see it. So that was me. That was the first. I think that starting point was huge because I jumped with absolutely no safety net. And the pain of where I was far greater if I'd stayed there than the pain of jumping into the void, and that's what I work with people on. You've got to have a bit of pain to move, but you've got to feel so excited by the desire that you are catapulted into movement without kind of like, ugh. So that's how I landed in life coaching. And then lo and behold, I'd Googled it once and the lovely Facebook popped up and said, free taster life coaching sessions, come to central London. And then it's like following breadcrumbs, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that all probably came from a niggle from reading that book.
Yes.
So yeah, that was huge. Leaving my 9-year career, having no safety net, not having really any savings, all the fear, all the doubt, all the Nina, you're absolutely nuts coming from the outside. Then me going, well, yeah, you're probably right. Should I, shouldn't I? And then I just did it.
Yeah.
And that was 6 years ago.
Wow.
Here I am.
Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, it is that the willingness, as you say, though, to really take that sort of bold action, because going back to almost when you started first, when we first asked the question and what's important about helping other people in a sense of, to, as you said to us, shine. And even then when you were talking about the environment in a sense of where you were before, being like it is in a dark place, versus like the scene with not enough light. So obviously, picking up the sort of the words that you mean, in a sense of to be able to get in the brightness and the shine and be in the right place. But it's that sort of, there's so many people who are probably listening, who have listened to this or that I spoke to as well, and myself included in some ways in that capacity, that you take these bold actions, but we're always kind of in some ways that holding ourselves back that little bit, putting ourselves into a place. And you mentioned a few reasons of why people do it. And one of the things you were saying, I think earlier on as well, and it kind of touched on there, is that the influence from the outside, in a sense of from when we've got our internal stuff, but you just said it's there. Well, I'm going to maybe do this thing. I'm going to quit the job, and then the voices from the external as well saying you're mad, or maybe historically, whether it be parents, grandparents, families, schools, that has such a negative impact on a person to the point they don't make those changes. And I suppose, did you have to figure out some things, that those beliefs that you had sort of maybe in yourself that you had to change before you can really make the action you wanted to?
Yes. And the biggest belief for myself, and I know for so many people, it always comes down to this like root, and it's not enoughness. Like we are all born enough. And I would love to challenge anyone that wants to tell me different. When we look at a baby, we never look at it and find a flaw. And the baby doesn't even know that anyway.
Yeah.
We're born whole and we're born complete and we are born enough. And the only reason we get to where we get to with I am not are experiences, stories, beliefs. And that's it, because we don't come into the world that way. And my core belief, like so many people, was I'm just not enough. And it all, I've traced it back and I've done all that work. And it started probably when I was about 6 and my parents split up. And my dad left my world. And I then decided, so this is an unconscious decision. These all don't come from, it's not like I just decided. I didn't realize, I know now that I wasn't lovable. Because when one of your primary caregivers, the people that you are born into being with, who are supposed to love you unconditionally, be with you, support you, nurture you, and watch you grow at a very young age. I mean, normally these ideas, beliefs are created by us between the ages of 0 and 7. And yet, as a 40-odd-year-old woman, I was still functioning from that belief. It's, unbelievable, isn't it? But it's the truth.
Yeah.
And then all I've done my entire life is just gather evidence that that's right. I'm a not enoughness magnet. Mess up every relationship, get every job that I just destroy or do things wrong, and oh God, I mean, we could be here for hours if we really wanted to go down my back catalogue of Nina's not enoughness, but let's spare the listeners.
Yeah.
However, I'm sure people are, and you understand, and there's just no evidence to support it.
Yeah.
Because the evidence isn't real. It's just fear. And when you really unpack it and you look at all of the things that have happened in your life, I still can't argue that I'm not enough. It's just stories. It's not my dad leaving. It was the decision I made around my dad leaving. But that's not actually what happened. What happened is my dad couldn't cope and my dad left. It wasn't about me. But yeah, the ego loves it to be all about us and have the pity party and and I was still believing it. And it's not the truth. And it still comes up, James, regularly.
Yeah.
But now I get to sit at the table with it now, James, and we get to have a chat. We get the pity party banners out occasionally. And, we have a little bit of a down day, but we just get back up now. And it's a superpower when you really can see that those beliefs, they're just an old identity, like an old pair of socks. They've just got a bit worn and I keep putting them on. They should have gone in the bin ages ago. Actually, let's just throw them away. My toe's been sticking out for way too long. Let's just get a new pair. Oh God, yeah, I'm a super badass. I'm enough. And on we go.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think that's the really important piece you said at the end there as well, though, because I think almost like someone could almost get to that point in a sense of sort of understand, in sense of getting to the point where thinking, right, I am enough, and have that one moment of thinking that slipping back into an old sort of way of thinking or coming up with that sort of thing. And then almost stop and go, well, I just proved it again because I've gone backwards, for a better quote unquote. But the truth is, it's a never ending process. It's I think when people think, oh well, Nina shared her story and then look at her, oh she's shining, she's flying, she's doing it. She never quote unquote has a bad day. So she, exactly. So people believing, oh no, now she's got it sorted, that's it. It's like, no, there's always something. There's always something to be working on. There's always circumstances that will come up. Life will change, will throw things at us, whatever it is. So the belief as well that well, I'm the only one that it must be affecting all this way versus someone else. So I think people need to realize it's like, this doesn't, it almost can think people off, oh, it's going to be, like you said, oh, it's too much hard work or it's too much this. It's like, however, it's worth doing. It's worth it. That's the point, in the sense of, it's not to say that it'll be easy, not that it's simple, but it's worth doing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And for me, what comes up when you share that is what it's given me is total peace. Yeah. I just feel
that's an interesting word.
Yeah, I just feel so at ease in my life right now. And I'm not saying it's easy. I think that's a really different distinction. life is going to continue lifing, and I'm a human being having the same human experience as everyone else. However, I absolutely know that at my core I'm enough, and I don't only know it. Knowing it is one piece, right? Being it and
Yes.
embodying it and living it, a whole other ball game. And
Absolutely.
that's, I think, where
And
people get stuck. It's not just about affirmations and looking in the mirror
yes.
naked and going, I'm enough, I love myself. No, okay, well, if I really believe that to be true, who would I be being? What would I be
Yeah.
doing if I was being that person? And
Yeah.
that is where we collapse time, and we actually, the embodiment piece that we hear in the self-development world now, I can't just think it, I have to be it. And that's when I become it.
Absolutely, because it's definitely that the being is definitely, and I think is even the doing things in some ways, because this is an interesting thing as well. And I'd be interested to get your perspective on it, because I think the being is almost like the higher word than the doing in some ways, because we can very much get caught up in the doing as well, and almost in the same way that you mentioned earlier, in the sense of your drug of choice, whether it be alcohol, etc., doing all the time become another, but I'm really busy, but I'm really, well, what is the doing, because you could be doing just for the sake of it, thinking that's what you're supposed to do, that should again. So it's like, how would you sort of be able to sort of distinct between doing for the sake of it and that being?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, juicy question. So, like most people, I thought that, we'll use the word results. I thought
Mm,
that I could create results, successes in my life by creating a goal and then just walking towards it with particular steps. However, what I've come to understand through the work that I've done and now the work that I get to create within others is that any results always start with you being an energetic match in your identity for what it is that you want. Now, for context, that is who I be. For example, let's use coaches just for the sake of it, because we're both
mm,
coaches. I want 10K months. Let's just say that's my want. That's my result. That's my goal. That's my dream. I want that. Okay, so what actions do I need to take to get to that 10K? Oh, I need to create a podcast, a website, blah, 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 blah. But actually, in the center of all that, in my being, I don't think I deserve it. Is anyone going to buy that from me? Is it actually going to be able to help them? Yeah, but there are so many other coaches out there. So in the middle of that, energetically, I'm not aligned with what it is I say I want, but yet all I'm doing is focusing on the results and the actions. But I
yes.
haven't been working on my identity. So it's the same with, I don't know, you were talking about before we came on, running or
Yeah.
exercise. I want to run that marathon or climb that mountain or do that Ironman, yet inside I'm still believing that it's not possible for me. And I'm acting in that way, and I'm looking at everyone else and thinking they're better than me. And then I'm sabotaging my exercise. And today I've just sat on the couch and I've drunk a beer and I've eaten loads of biscuits. So we have to be a match for what it is we want before we get there. And that is where people get stuck, because we can't get the result from the identity that we are now, because it takes a shift. So if I want 10K months as a coach, using that as the example, but there are so many other
Mm,
examples, I have to start to act as the identity of the person that's already had that. I've got to get my
mm,
ass out there. I've got to start charging great prices. I've got to start talking to amazing people and getting in the room. I've got to start believing, not stop doubting myself, and acting in alignment with it. Now, if we're talking radio waves and frequency and energy, now I start to become a match for what it is I want, and I start calling it in. And yet everyone does it the other way around. And that is
yeah.
why you have so many people in the world who've bought hundreds of books, listened to hundreds of podcasts, have invested in hundreds of coaches and hundreds of programs, telling them, follow it my way, do this blueprint, try it like that. They do all the things.
Yes.
Why do some people get the result and
Mm.
some people don't? Because it's got nothing to do with the action. It's all to do with the being.
Yeah.
I love this conversation.
Yeah.
It's so
Oh,
juicy.
brilliant. No, it is. It's brilliant though, because it's like, and so much of it, I was just like, yeah, done that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But I tell you, because we were chatting about it in a sense of, before we came on air, in a sense from in a different context, but you're right in the sense that I, a few years ago, haven't done it as much as recently, but I was into triathlon and Ironman, and that was a big sort of physical goal of mine for a number of years. And I tried it. Tried the first time I tried it. It wasn't successful, because if you're not familiar with Ironman, you have to complete each sort of swim, bike, run in a certain time frame and stuff. If you don't complete the distance in the time frame, that's it. Your race is over. You can't carry on. And so when I went in from I did a few of the half distances, which is 70 miles. The full distance is 140 miles. Swim, bike, run, back to back. You have 17 hours to complete the whole event with intermediate time cutoffs. The time that I completed it, the first one I did, the full distance, in 2017 in Barcelona. So it was the Barcelona Ironman. It's just down the road from Barcelona where the actual event is. I went into that day. I can still remember it now. I'd training. I'd, as you said, done all the things. If you want to put it that way, training plan, blocks, all the rest of it. But I went into that race, whereas previously I would have had those same hang-ups. I'll look at that person's bike, look at that person's kit, etc. Look at mine versus comparison stuff. That morning I went in going, I'm already an Ironman. I just need to confirm it. I had it in my head. This is just purely the confirmation of the fact. So it was like, it wasn't almost in my head. This wasn't a doubt in my head. It was like, I just have to do this to that's it. So the mindset was so different from previous events when I'd gone going, oh Jesus, well they've done so much more than me, etc., and I'm just this, and who am I to do that, etc. So the same way, the example you're giving, the coaching thing, is like, if I'd gone into that day thinking, oh well, I'll just hope for the best, nah, good luck. It'll chew you up and spit you out type thing. You're trying to put your body through something like that. It's this, when you go into it going, and this is the other point I'd say on what you said. It's me, not everyone else. Then whatever they do is their race, or whatever other coaches do is their coaching. It's doesn't matter what they're doing. You can, even in the moment of that point, we can still compare. That's the thing that will really screw you up. If you're right at the point where you think you're going to be who you are, you can suddenly be thrown by comparing yourself to someone else.
Completely. And again, the same thing really works when you just think about the concept of having more joy in your life. Okay. So many people come and work with me because they're just feeling like the lights have gone out, right? And life is tough, a lot of the time. However, I truly believe that you can access joy even in the darkest moments. Me recently, I've just had a tumor removed. I mean, talk about taking yourself to the dark, the dark night of the soul. This has been pretty, the biggest test, I think, for me in my life. And yet, even in the moments when it feels like the lights are out, I chose joy. And it starts with me deciding that that is the level that I operate on, no matter what. And so if that is what I'm choosing and I want to be a match for it, who do I get to be? I get to laugh. I get to play. I get to surround my people with energy with energy for days. Or I can say I want more joy, but then I sit at home on my own and I just expect it to happen. And then I beat myself up at the end of the day because I didn't feel it. Like, I get to create it. And that's all about the responsibility piece. And this isn't easy. Again, I keep going back to that saying, to choose something different when the normal pathway would be life is really difficult equals feeling down. And that's kind of like really messing around with the status quo.
Yeah.
When my mum passed away, 7 years ago, obviously, again, deeply traumatic time for me. I went through huge, like sort of deep, dark moments. And yet I was still happy. And I
Mm,
remember feeling guilty about
mm,
laughing because society doesn't want us to be able to feel happy and joyful, because in some way that's like you're not really feeling the pain, or you didn't really love them, or how can you be again, let's talk about right now war and suffering that's going on in the world. So many people are feeling so guilty about expressing their joy and expressing their gratitude, because how can I feel this joy when other people are suffering? No, you get to amplify it.
mm.
Turn up the volume so that the world can feel your joy frequency, because I promise you it is the ripple effect that everyone gets to feel no matter where they are. And if more people celebrate themselves, have more fun, feel more joy, even in the dark moments, and I'm not talking toxic positivity here, I am
Mm.
very much a believer in feeling your feelings, expressing your emotions. And the duality piece is really important: joy and pain, sunshine and rain, light and shade. You can't have one without the other. But turn up your volume, turn up your brightness, and everyone around you gets to benefit. And you can do it even if you've had a crap day, even if
Yeah.
life is lifing and you don't, you're telling yourself, oh God, it's really bad and I just wish it would get better. It starts with who you believe yourself to be. And then that's your identity shift. And this is the work. This is the
Yeah.
work, my friend. This is where it all
Yeah.
starts.
Absolutely. And yeah, and there's so many, again, things in that, because it's like, I remember it would be myself, it would be my father passed away just coming up 3 years ago. And again, it was one of those, we were chatting about this because obviously you were chatting about your recent health experience, as we put it, with the tumor, and sort of gratefulness, I suppose, and things, and the randomness of life. But it was like, because it was COVID 3 years ago, can we believe it's still there? We couldn't. I'm in Ireland. My parents were in England. Couldn't visit. I hadn't seen them in, gosh, it was December. I saw them Christmas, December 19, and I didn't see that. It was 18 months before I got to see anyone from the family or whatever. And my dad had, in the March of 2020, he had not been well, and he had to go in for quite a serious operation, and he was recovering or whatever, and that, like, and then borders opened up and stuff like that in the July, and so I went over as soon as I could. They opened up. We went over, drove over to see him in England, and it was great. So we saw him for the week. Obviously, he was still quite, recovering from the operation, but he seemed to be all right. I got home 4 days later. He passed away.
Wow.
It's just something. It's whatever would happened, and he deteriorated quite fast, and he passed away. And it was like, it is still, obviously, it's still just only a few years ago, but it's like the talking of sort of whether it's serendipity or it's just coincidence or whatever and stuff like that. But it's like the joy in the fact that I had that week and stuff, not having seen him for 18 months. But even at the time then, when I was back over with my siblings and stuff like that as well, it's that thing, even in those moments, there's laughing, there's crying, but there's laughter as well, and remembering all the things that you have over our lifetime. So it's so important, as you say, to try and find those moments and choose whatever the emotions you want to go through at those moments of time. But the other thing I was going to say on this, in the sense of, especially when it comes to happiness, and people think you're saying, oh, is it a choice? The thing is, I remember reading a book years ago, again, by, I don't know if you know, lady Dr. Maureen Gaffney. She's an
Mm-hmm.
Irish doctor, psychologist, and author. And there's science behind this as well. This is the thing that I love about it, is when they've done studies, they say about like your job, and as much as they're important, say that they are all those sort of the things, the material things, we calculate it's about 30% of our
Wow.
happiness. So
Mm.
70% of how you decide to feel is all made by yourself. It's
Yeah.
so much. So the things that you just said there, in a sense of the choices of how you want to be, are so much in our hands, but we almost, as you say, don't want to believe it, because it makes the responsibility on ourselves again. And you've mentioned that a few times, that sort of like personal responsibility piece.
Yeah.
How much does that play? do you think?
I didn't want to be responsible. I wanted to blame everyone,
Mm.
because isn't that just so much easier? You know, it's so easy to just keep bringing the past into your present and your future, because let's not forget, accessing joy and working on your being and your happiness, it takes work. You know, I don't just wake up feeling amazing. I take my responsibility for my joy and my happiness, my confidence, my self-worth, all of those things. I take them very seriously. I see them like going to the gym and working my body, you know. So I meditate, I read, I have nourishing conversations, I dance. Before we came on today, I jumped about and really shifted my energy because I wanted to feel, I get to feel energized, and I don't have to rely on somebody to come and do that. I know how to move. Um, I have all of these non negotiables in place. I nourish my body with food. I stopped drinking now. I chose to completely be sober. I have been for 5 months, and that's been massive. And again, I'm not here to say that this is going to work for anybody else. This is just my own personal
Mm.
experience. I had to sit down and look at, how am I spending my day? How much scrolling am I doing? How much comparison? Whose voice
Mm.
am I listening to? What's actually not mine? What's somebody else's decision or somebody else's voice? So there are all these things in place, which are kind of like, if you think about a first aid kit, inside it, you open it up and it's got plasters and scissors. It's got all kind of the stuff. That's my own personal joy first aid kit. And at any moment, at any time of the day, I can open up that box and I can get something else out. And I also have incredible coaches and mentors, because when I
Mm.
do lose that, and I do, and I really want to keep reiterating, this isn't I just float on a pink cloud every day and I feel amazing. I've got the right environment of people around me
Yeah.
who also are working on their joy and their greatness and their being and their energy, so that I can plug in if I need to on somebody else's radio frequency, because we all need a little bit from somewhere else sometimes when our reserves are running low. This isn't a solo journey, even though it feels it. Surrounding myself with people who are positive and help me lift up when I'm at a low ebb has also been a game changer for me. And anyone that's listening to this podcast, it's all about environment. That is the first place I would look. And that's a bit painful,
Mm.
because it might mean you have to let some people go. But I really believe that people in
Yeah.
your life are there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Yeah. And it's a because when you were just about saying that about environment, I was thinking that because if anyone's who's listening, and you may experience this, when you were going through that sort of real transition, a sense of like, the teaching assistant and or previous careers or whatever you're doing, and then a lot of people from the outside looking in is going like, Jesus, what is what is she doing with herself now? Type thing. That's sort of looking in from other people, and because I can remember it in a sense experience when I experienced it when I was like getting into, as I said, marathon running, triathlons and stuff. I was like from probably friends or family or whoever, like thinking, oh, geez, you're a bit mad. And at first it would be like the odd joke and stuff, but then it'd be kind of like you kind of think there's that thing of you say you have to at some point go, you know what, actually, no, this is something that is really important to me. I feel whatever the benefits, you're not having to justify it, but you're almost having to go, you know what, that voice, that whatever on the outside, that's no longer serving who I am right now and who I want to be. That's a tough one. That's a
Mm,
really, but and a really important thing to want to acknowledge and have to then take action on.
yeah. A lot of the time, we don't change because of a story we tell ourselves. It's going to be too painful for the people that we love. So we
Mm.
keep ourselves small. We keep ourselves back in the identity of the person that they want us to be, so that it makes them feel better. And it's a challenge when you first start to choose you. Like, I choose myself. And for me, that is a radical act of self-love. But before I'd been on this journey, I kept drinking and I kept doing the things that weren't good for me because I was really scared that I wouldn't fit in and I wouldn't belong anymore. And um, when you start to go on a journey of self-love and choosing you, it can really feel like you're drifting away from the people in your life. But actually, the people that are meant to come with you will come with you. But it takes a lot of courage to start choosing yourself. And that is why, as I shared previously, it's important to surround yourself with other people that are also doing that. Because sometimes you'll hit a bit of a rocky patch and it'll be easier to go back. But that's not what you want. You want to just keep moving forward. And, I'm a real believer in what's meant for you won't pass you by, you know? You just got to stay in the lane that you're choosing. And if people want to come in and join you there, that's great. And if they don't, you send love and light their way. But that's their choice. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah, absolutely. One things I always like to, when I'm talking to people in this sort of space and coaching world or personal development world, it's like the importance of the people they work with, the people that they
Yeah.
serve, though they're essentially their clients, whatever. How much have they brought to you as opposed to a coach, or how important they are to you?
I see myself in them. And
Hmm.
I think back to the Nina that used to wake up in the morning and go, can I swear, James? Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah,
Same shit, different day.
yeah.
Okay. And I remember that feeling every day of making a contract with myself that today was just another day
Hmm.
closer to when it was all going to be over. And that was really seriously the way that I would set myself up. And obviously, I didn't let anyone know. And I look back at I look at the people that I want to work with. On the surface, everything might look really, really great. They might have amazing marriages and friendships and careers and money in the bank and accolades. But there is something inside of them that's just out of whack, out of balance. And inside, they're really kind of like lying to themselves. And that was me. I was just kind of like just two people fighting each other, desperately wanting to come out and say, I want to go that way, but inside saying, well, no, this is the only way. And so they're so important to me because I just see myself in them and I see where I am now. And I see maybe where they are. And this isn't an ego thing. I'm not further along. I'm no greater. We're all
No.
the same. I've just been on the journey a little bit longer, a bit like you in an Ironman race. They're not better. They're just further ahead.
Yeah.
And I just scoop them up, bring them into my world. And we have a great time. That classic analogy of peeling back the layers, helping people get back to the core of who they are, what's important to them, what really matters to them, very much like the name of your podcast, and what they want. And that space for people to start to discover that without, yeah, but I can't, yeah, but that person, and it's going to hurt them, and what my parents thought I would be, and the way that life is supposed to go, and the way that women are meant to act, and the expectations that I have around being a mother. And what, when you start really, really connecting to your true self, that is when life actually starts to become magical, because you stop pretending and you just start expressing yourself. And it's wild, James, when life can be like that. And that's what I want for everyone. I just want them to have a wild, old, fun, joyful experience of life, not just when you've booked a first class ticket to wherever. Like how many
Yeah.
of us just place all of that joy and relaxation on a holiday? I mean, that
Yes.
sucks. It
Yes.
really does. You can have it. I'm just sat in my North London sort of like office. I feel wildly alive right now. I'm
Yeah.
not on a beach in Turkey having a mocktail delivered to
Yeah.
me, thinking, oh, I'm
Yes.
really bougie. I'm at home because I'm accessing it on the inside. And that's what I help my clients with. Because when you've got that tool, you're freaking
Yes.
unstoppable.
Yes. No, it's a really valid and I think interesting point, because, and I think as well, it definitely, when we come one of the things you say with the environment, and it really sort of, and then when I'm talking environment myself, the literally direct environment. So where I'm living now, I'm in the countryside in the middle of Ireland. So just outside a town called Mullingar. So it's just Midlands in Ireland. So we're surrounded by farms and fields and everything. So before this, we lived in suburbs of Dublin for 10 or so years, which was grand, and it was fine. It's the first house we bought, but it was time to move. Should we say at the end? I didn't. Neither were kind of as happy as we were, and we were in that sort of like, working and living for every next holiday, if you know what I mean. And so it was 3 years ago. So 3.5 years ago, we moved down here, and it's like I don't need to go anywhere, because it's just like, and it's amazing in a sense of like
Wow, I
I
really like
have
that.
it's like I'm just looking outside now, my sitting room window just across the countryside. I've got I have we have our dogs, we have our garden, we have the countryside we walk. It's like it's just I'm completely in love with where I am. So I don't, it's almost like if I wanted to travel, I love traveling, but it's because I want to travel, not to escape anything. That's the big difference. I'm not trying to think, oh, I need to get away to escape my life. That's a bullshit. That's what we've been
Yeah.
sold for so many years of on advertising holiday, isn't it? Get away
Yep.
from it all type crap. No, if you're going to go away, go for the experience, go for travel. If you're going
Mm.
to escape for something, then shit, like that's the narrative needs to change on that.
Yeah. Well, you'll spend that whole time you're away kind of like just trying to recover. You're not
Mm,
actually really there. You're still thinking about what you've left behind, and then you're already thinking about what you're going back to. And somewhere in
absolutely.
the middle of that, there is no rest and recuperation,
Yeah,
because you're
yeah,
kind of still stuck in that kind of fight or flight. And I've done it. I've
yeah,
put, like, oh my God, I've got some, that classic saying of get some good things booked in, because that way, it's going to get you through. And I get that. And I still do that too. And it is
yeah.
good to have those markers. However, can you generate that moment by moment, just
Mm,
in who you be? Is there a song that you love to listen to? Is there a poem you want to read? Is there a friend that you could call? Is there a meditation and a thing that you can just close down your eyes and just sit with yourself for a minute? There's so much access in the here and now without having to
mm,
find external things
yeah,
to bring the joy. Those things are important and great too. Believe me, I've got a nice house, I've got a car, I love going on holiday, I love
yeah.
nice clothes. That does bring me joy, but at its core, my contentment, fulfillment, confidence, joy, and all those things, it comes from inside me.
Yeah.
And it's taken me a while to really get to this point. And it has meant that I've had to do some really challenging work to let a lot of the reasons why I can't feel that go.
Mm.
And now, I'm really good until the next time.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
really real
yeah,
until the
yeah,
next time.
yeah, absolutely. Um, no, no, it was just reminding me then in a sense of like sometimes I said the simplest of things. So getting the house that I'm now, and I was there. It's a property where there's lots of always keep things maintained and all that sort of stuff. Stuff to keep you occupied. Anyway, there's always something to be worked on or done. And I was like, I have gates and fencing and stuff. So it was the week when I had one day of sunshine, because that's what it was like. I would get out and paint the fence and clear the stuff and that. And it took me, a couple of days, a few hours each day or whatever. But it was that sort of joy in just doing something so simple and
Yeah,
something so just sort of peaceful. And it wasn't sort of like, oh, I've got to go paint the fence type thing. You could go in
mm,
it, and you can take anything that needs to be done as oh, I've just got to get through this. I've just got to get through this. And you get to that sort of point where every day you're just getting through it, versus,
yeah,
oh no, versus instead of getting through it, it's like, oh, I get to paint the fence today. I get to be outside. I get
I
to
love that.
whatever, that sort of experience it. Why not try, even in the most, something that seems so simple or mundane, to go
Yeah,
out and find something joyful in the simplicity of something.
yeah, that's such a beautiful way of looking at it. And something that has been so coming up for me right now is how much noise I have in my ears all the time and how much consumption I'm in. and hey, we're on a podcast now, and of course I'd love as many people to listen to this as possible. However, choosing that much more mindfully for myself, because it's very easy. We're very busy people. We have access to so much information, and other people's not. It's amazing. It's amazing what we've got access to. However, what I really noticed was how much I was constantly filling the silence and the gaps, even to the point where on the weekend I normally have a bath and I listen to a podcast, and I thought, no, Nina, you don't need to listen to anything. How many people just go for a walk or go for a run, podcasting? Again, it's not your thoughts. It's somebody else's. You can't access kind of this level of joy and peace and stillness or whatever it is that needs to be heard from a place of constantly pouring in and filling your head. But painting your fence, how easy is it to just put a podcast in or have the radio on? But what about if you just paint the fence with nothingness? You know, it's an interesting idea, and I'm sure lots of people here who listen might want to go and try it, because it's really wild what comes up when you give yourself space.
100%, absolutely. I think that's the joy in the sense of, because sometimes I think when I do something like that, or the other thing I'll do quite obviously often is I have 3 Labradors, so they need to be walked quite a lot. So so it's that, and that's the time I don't, whenever, because I do, if I'm walking them on the road or anywhere, I don't have headphones in because I'm with the dogs, like, so there's no outside. It's just the walk, and again, it's not the sort of, no, I have to walk them because they're Labradors and they'd go crazy if they didn't get a walk. So they do need to get walked, but it's also, it's not it's not seeing it as a chore. It's the thing of, I get to walk the dogs. There was one of the things I remember from years ago from a gentleman, Jerry Duffy, who's here from the same place here in Ireland, but I met him a few years ago, and that was the thing he kept saying, I get to do this. And that was a big shift for me. Those was, I have to do this, or I'm supposed to do this. No, I get to do this stuff. So that's a big service. And then when you get to do it, as you say, and again, it's not to knock connectivity, social media, internet. It's not a knocking that sort of stuff, but it's the ability to know the choice of when and when not to do it. And if you haven't done it, try it the one time to do something without, as you say, any external, and see what then bubbles up in your own head. Because you could be trying to, actually, you said earlier, you think, oh, we set the goal and we follow the steps, and then we just we've achieved it. But you could kind of think, well, I keep getting to this one step and I keep struggling, I can't get past it. If you almost allow silence, sometimes the answer will just come up. You couldn't hear it yourself for the noise that's going on around you.
It's such a beautiful space to be, just sitting in the silence. Sometimes I can see the clouds from here, and quite often I just allow myself to just sit and look up at the sky for a minute. How often do we allow ourselves to just daydream and think, oh, that's a curious cloud? Oh, I'll just listen to the radio, I'll put a podcast on, here's all my stack of books, I'll read those, I'll go and talk to XYZ. And when we're talking about identity, for me now, it's just all about a lot more stillness. A lot more of my joy comes from just giving myself total permission to be still, to be in solitude, and to be with others. But I'm particularly in my I love being alone era. I'm not really alone, but just me time, and being selfish. I mean, that word has so many layers. I love being selfish. Being a good person for me is being a selfish person, learning how to say no, having great boundaries, taking myself away, changing my mind if I want to. And that's going to be quite prickly for some people. But when you honor yourself, that is when you feel in alignment with who you are, not when you're doing things for other people just because you should.
100%. Absolutely. I echo all of that. Nina, one of the questions I love to ask people when they come on the show is about quotes or phrases, because I think they can be quite powerful or quite impactful. So are there any quotes or phrases that are important to you?
There is one particular quote that I go back to all the time, and it is this, and I have no idea who it's by. Your past was a lesson, not a life sentence. When I first heard that, it was literally like I had been shackled and they just fell off. It was one of those things that I was like, oh my God, it was just all there for learning. It was all there for growth and learning. But it doesn't have to shackle me and keep me locked in prison, because it's not happening now. It's gone. But yet every time I keep going back to it, it becomes a prison again.
Yes.
And that quote, your past was a lesson, not a life sentence. I just resonate with it so much in my whole body. And, it's not happening now. It's not happening now. And that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a yeah. I hadn't heard that one before, and it's you can hear it because it's amazing in a sense of like, even now, sort of into my 40s, how the mind will sometimes bring you back and go, "Geez, why am I worrying about something that happened when I was 15 or 12, or on that day, random thought or something, or random what ifs and things like that," and you kind of go, oh, even not even 20 years ago, 30 years ago, not even 2 weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that thing of like that ability to see things, as you say, as purely as something that happened and what can you learn from it. It's I can understand why, from when you explained your story before, how that can be very liberating to hear
Yeah.
that. Massively
We're
liberating.
mainly, whenever we're in a state of anxiety or worry or fear, we're never in the now.
Yeah.
We're not here. We're somewhere in the past, what happened before, and we're ready and guarded in case it happens again, or we're
Yes.
predicting what may happen in the future. So learning how to bring yourself back to presence is a gift. Like, where am I now? I'm sat in my office. There's a green pen. There's a cloud. There's a water bottle. Is everything okay? Am I good? Yeah, there's my heart. It's beating in my chest. I'm nourished. I'm safe. I'm loved. Now, what was happening then isn't hurting me because it's not even here. It's gone. It doesn't exist. It's just a memory. Where's a memory? Somewhere in a part of my thought process, brain, locked away. Whatever's going to happen might happen. I can't even predict what's going to happen in the next hour, let alone in the future. What about if I just bring myself back to the now? And for me, that's probably been one of the most freeing things that I've learned, that keep me in this really calm, grounded, joyful, centered space. Bring yourself back to the now, because it's all we have.
100%. No, I love that. I also like to ask people, who do you think have been the biggest influences in your life?
I think my mum. My mum was an incredible woman who had some really deep trauma. And growing up, I didn't understand that. And when I look back at her life now, I just see her as an absolute warrior, that she was able to raise me and my brother and get up every day and work and function and just show up when when so much had happened that I hadn't even seen. And it kind of makes me think about an iceberg. What we see in people is the top of the iceberg, but actually the depths and how much we judge others based on the tip of that iceberg,
Yeah.
but not the depths. And so my mum, even though at the time I just didn't understand her, I didn't like her a lot at times. And, I really sort of thought, well, why is my childhood different and everyone else has got that and I've got this? But I just look back at her now and I just see her as just an absolute queen, strong and incredible. So I channel that all the
Yes.
time. And unfortunately, she's not here anymore, but I know somewhere she's listening to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a really interesting word to use there, actually, in the sense of warrior, but, in a sense of to describe your mum there, because it's like, I can see that word in you as well. from even just
Yeah.
from this conversation. So I can see the resonance of even just that word. And I think it just, well, why I like asking these questions as well, because, and again, it's not to conflate in the sense of what you mentioned earlier. It's like toxic positivity or saying things for the sake of it, or just something, but it's like words that can have a real resonance because when you're in those moments of, again, we keep saying as well, there will be moments of doubt, worry, anxiety, things going wrong, I'm going backwards, I'm not thinking the right way. A single word like I am a warrior, that can just change your entire mindset to bring you back into something, or remembering that quote. So that's why I think they're so powerful, because and not to use, you need to come up with something for yourself that means something, that it can just snap you out of something and then get you moving again. So I really love that. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's a word that I come back to a lot, particularly when I know I'm in that victim archetype, that victim way of being. And it's a very, very familiar way for me. Whenever I'm moaning, complaining, blaming, oh God, it's another grey day. Where's summer? Oh, there's my tax bill. Like, I step into this warrior energy, and she's like, it's okay. We've got this. It's all good.
Yeah.
Let's just go that way. Let's fucking go,
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
would she do? Would she be wasting
Yeah.
her energy and her breath and her time worrying about that? No, she'd be on that horse, like Joan of Arc.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
She
Love
goes,
it.
So again,
Yes.
it's at any moment I can channel that warrior energy. Again, it's about
Yeah.
choice. It's about
Yes.
choice.
100%. Nina, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. Before we finish up, I have one more question for you, and that is, what's important for your future?
What's important for my future is the mission that I'm on right now. And that mission is to have every human being that comes into my world just feel like the confident, self-assured, incredibly engaged, vibrant, limitless human being that they are. And that just starts even with this conversation, or anyone that's listened to it here. I don't know if how many lives I'm going to touch, or when that's going to happen, or in what capacity. So my main focus is keep working on me, and then that is just going to spread out. It's going to call those people forward. And yeah, I don't know where that's going to go, what that's going to look like, but I'm so enjoying the journey. The destination's almost kind of like irrelevant. So
Absolutely.
keep shining my light and helping other people shine theirs.
Love it. Absolutely love it. As I said, Nina, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to make sure people that can find you, so you can help them shine the light. So we will put all your details of where people can find you in the show notes. But if you would like to give a shout out now, where people can connect and follow you online.
Yes. So I have a profile on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Nina De Sausmarez. And you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook, Coaching with Nina, or just Nina De Sausmarez. And I am just launching my signature coaching program, which funnily enough is called Shine. So if you come and follow me, you'll see all the links and everything. And my new website's coming out soon too. So there'll be plenty of places to come and find me, which I'm sure will all come down in the show notes. And I love a voice note. So if anyone's listened to this and they feel called to come in and talk to me, even just to say hi, don't be a stranger, because it just starts with one little small step. And normally that's a conversation. So I've loved this conversation. We could have talked for hours, James, couldn't we?
We sure could have, absolutely. No, fantastic. No, and as you say, and as Nina said there, you have those links, but that said, all the links will be in the notes, guys, as well. So make sure you connect and follow. And Nina, again, last time, thank you so much.
Thank you, James. Thanks so much for inviting me. I really, really enjoyed our conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode. I really hope you enjoyed the conversation. To support the show, please subscribe on your favorite platform, share your favorite episode, get involved with your comments, and give the show a rating. If you want to learn more about what I do, you can follow me at James Dean Coaching on Facebook and Instagram, connect with me on LinkedIn, or check out my website, 𝙤𝙤𝙣𝙖 𝙬𝙚 𝙎𝙤𝙧𝙚.